I secretly recorded my abusive landlord's illegal activities and sent the evidence to the authorities. I had been living in the same apartment for 3 years, and for the most part it was fine. Sure, the place was a little run down, the faucet leaked, the walls were thin, and the heating barely worked in the winter, but it was cheap, and it was close to work. I could deal with it, but then, things started to change. My landlord, Mr. Grayson, had always been difficult. He was the kind of guy who would show up unannounced, demanding to inspect the apartment, and then nitpick about every little thing. "You need to clean this place better," he'd say. "Or you're using too much electricity." It was annoying, but I could handle it, until one day, he crossed the line. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was running late for work. I was in the middle of brushing my teeth when I heard a loud banging on my door. "Open up, it's Grayson," I groaned, and spit out my toothpaste. "Just a minute." I opened the door, and there he was, Mr. Grayson, in all his glory. He was a big guy with a bald head and a perpetual scowl on his face. He was holding a clipboard and looking at me like I'd just committed a crime. "I need to inspect the apartment," he said, pushing past me before I could even respond. "Oh, okay. But I'm kind of in a hurry. Should have thought of that before you let the place get so messy," he snapped, walking into the kitchen. I followed him, trying to keep my cool. "Look, Mr. Grayson, I've been busy with work. I'll clean up this weekend, I promise." He ignored me and started poking around, opening cabinets and looking under the sink. Then he stopped and turned to me, his face red with anger. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, holding up a bottle of cleaning supplies. That's bleach. "For cleaning, you think I'm stupid? This is industrial strength stuff. You're not allowed to use this in my building." I blinked, confused. "What are you talking about? I bought it at the grocery store." "Don't lie to me," he shouted, slamming the bottle down on the counter. "You're violating the lease. I could evict you for this." I felt a surge of anger, but I bit my tongue. "Mr. Grayson, I didn't know. Save it. I'm giving you a warning this time. But if I catch you using this crap again, you're out. Got it?" I nodded, too stunned to say anything else. He glared at me for a moment, then stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him. I stood there for a minute, trying to process what had just happened. Then I looked at the bottle of bleach on the counter and sighed. This was going to be a long day. Over the next few weeks, things only got worse. Mr. Grayson started showing up more frequently, always finding some new reason to yell at me. One time he accused me of having too many people over even, though I lived alone. Another time, he claimed I was damaging the property because I'd hung a picture on the wall. It was ridiculous, but I didn't know what to do. I couldn't afford to move, and I didn't want to risk getting evicted, so I just put up with it, hoping things would get better. But then, one night, everything changed. I was sitting on the couch watching TV when I heard a loud crash from the apartment above me. It sounded like someone had dropped something heavy, maybe a piece of furniture. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I heard shouting. I muted the TV and listened. It was Mr. Grayson's voice, and he sounded furious. "You think you can just ignore me, huh? You think you can get away with this?" There was a pause, and then I heard a woman's voice, trembling with fear. "Please, Mr. Grayson, I'll pay you next week, I promise." "Next week? You're already 2 months behind. Do you think I'm running a charity here?" I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew the woman who lived above me. Her name was Maria, and she was a single mom with 2 kids. She'd mentioned once that she was struggling to make ends meet, but I had no idea things were this bad. I got up and went to the window, trying to hear better. The shouting continued, and then I heard something that made my blood boil. "If you don't pay me by tomorrow, I'm throwing you out. And don't think you can call the cops. I own this building, and I can do whatever I want." I clenched my fists, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about me anymore. Mr. Grayson was abusing his power, and someone needed to stop him. But how? The next day I called Maria to check on her. She sounded exhausted and scared. "He's threatening to evict me," she said, her voice shaking. "I don't know what to do. I can't afford to move, and I can't pay him what he's asking for." I took a deep breath. "Maria, listen to me. We're not going to let him get away with this. I have an idea, but I need your help." "What kind of idea?" "I'm going to record him. If we can get evidence of what he's doing, we can take it to the authorities." There was a long pause. "Do you really think that will work?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but it's worth a try. We can't just sit back and let him bully us." Maria sighed. "Okay, what do you need me to do?" "Just keep doing what you're doing. If he comes by again, let me know. I'll take care of the rest." After I hung up, I started researching how to record someone without their knowledge. It turned out to be easier than I thought. I needed was a small, discreet recorder. I ordered one online and waited for it to arrive. In the meantime, I started paying closer attention to Mr. Grayson's behavior. I noticed that he often came by late at night, when he thought no one would be around. He'd park his car in the alley behind the building and sneak in through the back door. It was suspicious, to say the least. When the recorder finally arrived, I tested it out to make sure it worked. Then I waited for the right moment. A few nights later, I got a text from Maria. "He's here." I grabbed the recorder and headed upstairs. I could hear Mr. Grayson's voice as soon as I got close to Maria's door. "You think you can just ignore me, huh? You think you can get away with this?" I pressed the record button and held the device close to the door. "Please, Mr. Grayson, I'll pay you next week, I promise. Next week. You're already 2 months behind. Do you think I'm running a charity here?" I could hear the fear in Maria's voice, and it made my blood boil. But I stayed quiet, letting the recorder do its job. "If you don't pay me by tomorrow, I'm throwing you out. And don't think you can call the cops. I own this building, and I can do whatever I want." I waited until I heard Mr. Grayson leave, then knocked on Maria's door. She opened it, her eyes red from crying. "Did you get it?" she asked. I nodded. "Yep, I got it." The next morning, I went to the local housing authority with a recording. I explained the situation and played the audio for them. The woman behind the desk listened carefully, her expression growing more and more serious. "This is very concerning," she said when the recording finished. "We'll need to investigate this further." I felt a surge of relief. "Thank you. I just want him to stop harassing us." She nodded. "We'll do everything we can. In the meantime, if he threatens you again, call the police immediately." I left the office feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks, but I knew it wasn't over yet. A few days later, I got a call from Maria. "You won't believe what just happened," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "What? Mr. Grayson just got arrested. The police showed up at his office and took him away." I felt a rush of satisfaction. "That's amazing. Did they say why?" "Something about illegal evictions and harassment. They're investigating him for all kinds of stuff." I smiled. "Well, it's about time." Over the next few weeks, more and more tenants came forward with stories about Mr. Grayson's abuse. It turned out he'd been doing this for years, threatening people, raising rents illegally, and even stealing security deposits. The housing authority launched a full investigation, and Mr. Grayson was eventually charged with multiple counts of fraud, harassment, and illegal eviction. He lost his license as a landlord and was ordered to pay restitution to his victims. As for me, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The apartment wasn't perfect, but at least I didn't have to worry about Mr. Grayson showing up unannounced anymore. Maria and I became good friends after that. We'd often sit on her couch, drinking tea and laughing about how we'd taken down the big bad landlord. It's like they say, she told me one day, "Karma's a bitch." I laughed. And sometimes, she needs a little help. It's been a year since Mr. Grayson was arrested and things are finally looking up. The building has a new landlord, a nice woman who actually cares about her tenants. She's fixed the leaky faucet, repaired the heating, and even painted the walls. And as for me, well, let's just say I've learned that sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, who will? Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more interesting stories happening around you.